everybody. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here. And I'm looking forward to a very fruitful discussion, both coming out and coming of age. So this is a very important moment. So my novel is a Bildungsroman or Kunstlerroman, a coming of age story about a young artist and his transition from boyhood to adulthood. But it's also really the coming of age of the Indian LGBTQIA community. It's a very ripe moment since we've only been 1 year post Section 377 since the legalization of the LGBTQIA community. So I think that it's kind of on a parallel track. So we're here to tell our narratives, and I'm excited for this.
We too, sir. We too. And if you have any question, you can ask directly. If you have, just raise your hand, and I'll take your questions. Yeah.
Hi, Nemat. My question is, while writing the book, were you under any kind of threat, and how cathartic was it, writing it, and did you go through any of the upheavals, and how was the whole experience like?
Absolutely. Well, on the acknowledgement section, I mentioned how President Barack Obama, at that time, he was a nominee for the Democratic Party in 2008. And, when he secured the nomination, it really gave me the impetus to write this novel. I was like, and I always questioned myself whether I could write, a novel. It's like something so mind-boggling. And especially in a language that is my third language. My first language is Dari, then German. Of course, I speak a little Pashto, but it's not fluent. And then English is my third language. And so I questioned myself. But something within me, like I said to myself, if a biracial black man can come this far, then what's holding me back from telling my own story? So when I started the very next day, and within a month, I wrote 40,000 words. And it was very cathartic for me in the sense that, I was able to go to areas, uncharted territories within myself, and grapple with the old wounds that, you kind of didn't want to deal with. And so I was in a time when I was still repressed very much in the closet. I had accepted myself as a gay person, but the rest of the world had not known. Especially my family and people in the community. So for me, writing this was also dealing with unrequited love and my own repression, and that was a journey. And then basically, I would say that I had to go through that experience of going back to Afghanistan, seeing what that golden age of that paradise lost was like, and coming of age myself, empowering myself as liberating myself from the mental shackles forged by homophobia and homesickness. That helped me to crystallize what Kanishka Nurzadah's journey will be like. Of course, his journey is not like mine, but it's on a parallel track in the sense that we all go through that journey. It's not something unique to me or Kanishka Nurzadah. It's every single person. Some people transition to adulthood and are still the same person, the static. They haven't really changed much, and they'll go through life being the same person. And we all know those kind of people in our lives. Then there's other people that really something transformational happens within them, and it's like they've awakened and they've really harnessed their full potential. And I think Kanishka is one of those characters. He's a very dynamic character, and so I feel like I couldn't have completed this book until I actually gone through that journey myself, if that makes sense. Yeah, why don't you use your microphone so I mean, yeah, so we can...
The end was very interesting when he goes on a flight and we don't know what happens to him, because he leaves everything. I was just wondering if there could be a sequel, to what happens, after he goes and where he goes and the way he starts his life on a fresh note. Is there anything on the cards about it?
I think that, I really I want to resist the temptation of perverting this popular classic. I know there was a lot of pressure, for example, on Andre Asiman with Call Me By Your Name, and he has created a sequel, and it's kind of received mixed reviews. Of course, there are people that loved it, and other people are like, well, it's completely different from the first version, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to make this like a commercially into like a gimmick. It's not. I'm not following the trends. I'm not trying to make a buck. I want to just this book as a standalone work of art, and maybe a petition as an activist tool to to be a voice and a vessel for people who are still in the closet in India. And like I said earlier in the earlier session, in 68 countries where they're still criminalized, and facing the death penalty or life in prison. So for that reason, I think that it doesn't really matter what happens to Kanishka in the end. All the tools he needs, he learned through this journey. We know that he'll be okay, because whatever he faces after the last pages, we know it. Come on, can it be worse than what he endured? It's really impossible, right? Or it could be. So I feel like even if he did endure something, he's already overcome one of the biggest spiritual journeys that a person can make. Both seeking self-acceptance, having a sexual orientation, and not believing in a religion that the rest of the community is going against, your whole society of your birth. And we know that everywhere Kanishka lives, whether it's in an internment camp in Pakistan or as a refugee and newly immigrant in the United States, that he's always just withering and trying to find himself, right? He's going through constant struggles. But at the end of the day, we see, I don't want to spoil, so I'm going to speak very thematically. He goes through this journey where in the beginning he has a lot of self-doubt and lacks the courage, but at the end we see that he's fearless and he's overcome those things, and he's developed himself to a point where he can't overcome anything. So I think that's what's important in this type of genre, in this literary fiction genre called the Bildungsroman or the Künstlerroman. We want to see characters that go through this journey, because somehow it's very universal, these themes. It resonates with anybody.
So thank you. Any question, anyone you have? You can go ahead with this. All right, so in our country, how do you relate this point, LGBTQIA? So what do you think about the people, LGBT people, because now it's legalized in our country. So what is the message for them from your point of view? What is the one thing you would like to tell them, LGBT people? Because they, sometimes they are scary, they don't want to tell others. Still, they are in a kind of, fear that if everybody get to know, then they won't be able to hang around with us. So what do you think?
I think my message will be like, you only get one shot at life.
Yeah, correct.
And
absolutely.
And so why waste your life living living a fake life, living a double life, living the life that you're not going to honor yourself. And now you live in a country where, according to research, studies show that 55% or more of the Indians support gay marriage. That's phenomenal. So you live in a country where it's no longer, you have legal representation, you have your identity secure. What is the fear?
Correct. And one more thing, the people, the general people, still they have something, different in their mind. Even it's legalized, but they are not. There are so many who don't support directly this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the back, they say so many things about them and all. So what is the one thing that you'd like to tell them, the people who actually not accepting this thing, that LGBT, the gay, it's acceptable. They are not accepting. They are just saying, yeah, we understand, we accept, but actually they are not accepting. They are saying so many different things at the back, right? So what is the one thing that you'd like to tell them about this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to backtrack and say, I think that the people who are hidden and still oppressed and still in the closet, I would like to say to them, you have a responsibility. You live in the largest democracy in the world. You are more free than your counterparts right next door in Bangladesh and in Pakistan, where the LGBTQIA community is living under Sharia law, and they don't even have a right to even exist, to even breathe. So even as difficult as homophobia is, we're not facing this kind of, we're facing disgust or repulsion for being this way or not, none of that. But I don't think that we're facing the same kind of experience that other people in many countries around the world are facing, where we have, like I mentioned in an earlier discussion, where we have concentration camps in Chechnya and stoning in Sultan Brunei and in other parts in the Middle East where it's horrific. So I think that we should look at life through be more optimistic, and I say to the people, to the naysayers, there's always going to be people who will object to you and living your life. And I guess I come from a country where, United States, where we really honor individual rights. So I really don't care what other people think about me. What I try to focus on is my supporters. I try to connect. I did care before, both in Afghanistan and the United States, but I've learned to I learned that, what, if I focus all my energy on the people who hate me, then it doesn't make sense. I rather focus on my supporters here who are in before me and invest my time in them, because life for me is also very short, just as it is for everybody. Why not spend it to people who are showering me with love and affection?
Absolutely amazing. Good, superb answer to them who
And
still
build solidarity, because that's strengths in numbers.
Yeah, correct. So still, you have any question, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, you can, because Mr. Nemat Sadat is here, and still we have time. All right.
So
Yeah.
I have at least 4 coming out scenes in my novel. That was not intended, but so we have coming out both as gay and coming out as ex-Muslim. So I'm happy to read an excerpt for passages, especially for people who have not read The Carpet Weaver, or even if you've read it, you want me to read it for you. I've had strange requests from fans of where can I see you and you can do a personal reading for me. I think that's really cute and charming. But so I'm happy to do a personal reading, and if you guys are interested. But some people, when I was in Xavier College in Mumbai, they wanted no, coming out is nice, but do you have any? Can you just read me the sex scenes? And I'm like, wow, I remember when I was a teenager, but I still think I'm a teenager. So I'm happy to read the coming out scenes, but if you have time, we can read another scene.
So seriously, amazing, and hats off to you, Mr. Nemat Sadat. Amazingly, he is doing his job from Afghanistan till the whole world by his amazing work. Thank you so much, and please tell us something about the book. The people want to buy this. So is it available over here in the book?
Yeah, it should be available here in the bookstore, and after this session,
Bookstore,
I'm
yeah.
happy to go ahead and I'm going to head over there
Yeah.
to do signings and
Sure,
take
sure.
selfies. So let me just do a few minutes.
Please go ahead.
Perfect.
We have time. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll do a little reading here. Okay, so this is after a date between Kanishka and Maihan, his beloved. So I'm going to read a scene for you where Kanishka is actually coming out to Maihan. And coming out as ex-Muslim, or really a disbeliever in the religion. Then one night, after a modest dinner at her house, Madar suggested that Maihan stay over, as it had already gotten so late. I don't want to send you all alone, she said brightly, urging him to accept the invitation. I had noted that Madar too enjoyed that a boy as accomplished as Maihan enjoyed our company as much as we did his. Maihan agreed and called home to get permission, which took his parents granted. At this, Madar took out a toshak from a cupboard in the kitchen, climbed the stairs, and laid it over the floor next to my bed. Shab Bakhir, Madar said, looking down at the toshak and nodding with satisfaction. We wished her good night, and she left the room. Settling down, we covered ourselves with blankets. After a brief debate, we agreed that I would sleep on the toshak and Maihan on my bed. Starlight poured in, and I kept wide awake. My heart beat hard. Maihan hadn't slept over at my house since we reached puberty, so having him here now, under my parents' roof, made me both nervous and excited. Faiz had been missed, but it had felt so right, spending most of my days alone with Maihan. The feeling of joy overwhelmed me. Maihan fidgeted, moving from side to side. He also breathed heavily. I tossed and turned as well. Maihan lifted his head and looked over me. Can I come next to you? He whispered. I said nothing. In my head, I said yes. Myhan grabbed his pillow and crawled down next to me. Are you sure about this? I tried to make out his face from the scant light seeping through the windows. There's nothing wrong with two boys sleeping next to each other. Yeah, but what if my family walks in on us? So what? Myhan said. We're not doing anything wrong. You're right, I said. I'll tell them I... Relax, Myhan said. No one is going to come. Are you still awake? Mother called from the hallway. We moved away from each other. Continue your stories in the morning. We're going to sleep, I shouted. This seemed to satisfy Mother. Myhan and I lay quiet on our backs. There were so many things I wanted to ask him, so many things I wanted to share. I had no idea where to begin. I took a deep breath. These days, all I do is think about sex, I said, not daring to look his way. Even when I'm praying, I'm supposed to be concentrating on Allah. Myhan laughed softly. You're very naughty. You don't have the same problem? No. Lucky you. I can't help it. When I'm at the mosque, nestled between men, behind, in, and in front of me, and the Imam says, Allahu Akbar, What? Myhan asked, urging me on. I become aroused when we genuflect. I get distracted when we're down in the salat position, with all the pressure on my knees, my nose touching the ground, and my ass lifted in the air. Don't stop now, Myhan said. Say more. What happens then? Nothing. I do wonder, though, when I'm praying in a mosque, never mind. Tell me, are you wondering whether other men are concentrated or distracted? No, I paused, ashamed of even thinking about what I wanted to say. I won't judge you, he said. All right, I said. I'm wondering if any man behind me is enjoying the view of my buttocks spread wide. I felt liberated at releasing the words and continued, and then images of hunky nude men flashed before me, even when I shut my eyes. I paused and sucked my teeth. Why does this bother you? I feel guilty when Mullah Naqib spews his sermons about the evils of carnality. Myhan giggled. Does he resemble a goat with his stubby cheeks and the way his ears stick out? We both laughed, but my mood dimmed when I recalled the power of that memory. Mullah Naqib says that any ejaculation that is not used to impregnate is sinful, since it kills innocent sperm. What do you think? Myhan rolled his eyes. What an idiot. Not you, him. Even when you conceive, millions of sperm will die. Only one will make it to the egg. Not to change the subject, but he hesitated. It's fine, I urged encouragingly. Myhan gazed into the distance in deep consternation, his pretty lips pressed together in hesitation. It felt as though certain words lurked behind those lips, threatening to escape, and he was torn whether to free them or not. Eventually he turned to me and asked, Do you think of me? Then trailed off into silence. Think of you? I was baffled by his question. Yes, you are my friend. I think of you. He grinned and said, No, I meant when you jerk off. It took me a moment to absorb the shock of the question. I stared at him, breathless, silent for longer than I should have been, so long that his eyes narrowed in curiosity. I gave Myhan a half smile and timidly asked, What do you think? What do you think? There was a long pause, and both of us froze, trying to read each other's mind. Unable to bear the silence any longer, I continued. What really bothers me is what Mullah Naqib says about men having sex with men. Does he go into details? He says the greatest moral decay is the tribe of Lut. Citing an ayat from the Quran, he says, When a man mounts another man, the throne of God shakes. So to purify the sin, you have to kill both. Myhan huffed. Don't listen to mullahs. They rape boys and smoke hash. But Zaki John isn't a mullah. And you should have heard him talk at my birthday celebration. He said sodomy is immoral, impure, unpardonable, and wretched. Myhan could say nothing to this. We both lay in silence for a moment. Finally I said, You know what I think? I don't believe in religion at all. I said. Maihan reflexively rolled his eyes at me in disdain during that painful silence. I had slipped up by dislocating my faithlessness, by broaching a taboo subject that Maihan was not at liberty to discuss. But it would have been more awkward for me to change the subject. So I continued. What good is a belief that causes more people to be afraid of seeing and acknowledging the truth? Making love is supposed to be beautiful, not a punishment or a sin. I just want to be myself. Yeah, I had sex when I was in New Delhi. You know, a girl. Maihan paused, but quickly added, "We weren't close. It was purely physical, and we broke up even up before I knew I was going to move back here." Silence. I felt a flash of disappointment and jealousy. Throughout the weeks we spent together, I'd convinced myself there was a chance Maihan might be like me, a virgin. Countless fleeting thoughts had dwelled on a vision of Maihan and I on a night like this, secret and under starlight, our first time. Thank you. I'll stop right there because I leave for the suspense of what happens at the end of the scene. Do we have any time for a burning question? If
Yeah,
anybody
we
has-
have time. We have time. If you have any question, we have still 10 minutes. You can. Go ahead. Yeah.
When you started writing, when you wrote, you were in Afghanistan, you wrote for that particular diaspora in your country, but after the book was launched and it became a success that it has, do you think now you belong to a bigger community, to a bigger, population? You just are not confined to any one particular place, that you have a responsibility towards, a bigger crowd, and that you can make a difference to a lot of lives now?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I came out as an ex-Muslim, because people are like, well, why did you have to do that? And I feel like I don't want that to be belong to just one group, one tribe. I like to transcend, and I believe that I'm a humanist, and I want to be part of humanity. I want to be make myself accessible for each and every person that wants to, be in contact with me. And yeah, absolutely. I think that the themes in the novel is very universal. I think that this is an international book. I don't think we can make this an Afghan book, and I think that, I myself also transcend those identities, I think when people ask me, well, are you Afghan? Are you American? Now you're so accepted and embraced in India, even though I wrote, a speech in Bangalore that says coming out as Indian by spirit and soul. But I feel like I'm very connected here, and I think that it's part of my ongoing narrative of who I am, and I think I am this kind of international fleeting identity, this transnationalist who kind of still. I am wherever I feel like I'm at home, and I feel like home right now at this moment with all of you. But that's not to say that I wouldn't in a group, say if I go to Manila, Philippines, or Mexico City, anywhere you go, you're embraced. I think that that's where you should belong, and I think that you're absolutely right. I think that breaking barriers is one of the things I've done as an activist, and that's also what I'm doing. There was a review that was written in a book review, actually an author profile that was written in Scroll, that actually said that you don't have to be Afghan, you don't have to be a Muslim, but this book will still resonate with you regardless of what nationality or religion. I've had heterosexual people tell me that this book has spoken to me more than any book I've written in recent years, and some people have said their entire life, and they're not even a member of the LGBTQIA community. So those are the kinds of things that really just warms my heart and really excites me to get started on my next project.
Must be knowing Taslima Nasreen, when she was writing the book in Bangladesh, she had to face a life threat. She had come in for a lot of flack. While writing this book, did you face something similar? Because some of the experts which you just read out, like the guy, Kanishka, when he was speaking that he was lying down to, pray and all, those are very delicate places, because it touches religion, it involves religion, and a lot of people can get their, wings ruffled, so to say. So did you get any kind of threat, or were you in kind of any pressure, any kind of, hate calls or anything like that?
Yes, in my activism, yes, absolutely. When I came out in 2013, after I came out on Facebook to the entire world, I went back to my homeland and I was a professor. I was persecuted for being a lapsed Muslim and also a practicing homosexual. And then after that, when I came out, I did receive curses and death threats. And that was a watershed moment for me. I guess when I realized that the story for Kanishka Nurzada was not just a story, in my story, was really not just it was a voice and a vessel for other people who still do not have the liberty to or the privilege or the courage or whatever to come out yet. And I think that that's kind of where my evolution came from. So yes, it was very traumatic time period for my life to go through that, but the good news is that since this book has come out in June, I have received nothing, absolutely nothing. I've only received love bombs, even from Afghans in Afghanistan or in the diaspora, other Muslims. Like no one has actually said anything. India has a large Muslim community, and I'm sure they may have come across my book review or author profiles or maybe read my book. No one has actually said anything to me. So, I mean, it's really, we see that change does happen, that from 2013 to 2019, in 6 years' time, we see how the world is treating me differently. So,
Good to know, actually.
yes, LGBTQIA rights is on the march in Asia. Thank you so much. Any burning questions? We have time, or we are done?
Sure.
Pretty much?
Any
Okay,
question?
great.
Anyone you have?
Quick question, anything?
I think you have answered all the questions. That's why they
Thank
are
you.
running out of questions.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I'll be at the bookshop and
Yeah.
doing an author signing. So you're welcome to come over there, and we'll
Surely,
take it
sure.
forward. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Thank you so much. A round of applause for him, please, for Mr. Nemat Sadat. Thank you so much for coming here. It's really our privilege and honor to have you here. Thank you.